Welcome back to another video. This is a Toyota 3.4 donor engine removal. If you guys are watching this video, you guys are most likely going to be doing a 3.4 swap. I have done 4 3.4 swap in my journey. I have killed plenty of 3.4 rigs, mostly 4Runners. Today I'm going to show you guys how I remove a 3.4 donor engine out of these rigs. Now, this is a wreck rig. That means we don't care about anything else that's not important. So we're gonna destroy things and cut things that we don't need. So only do my method if you are gonna be doing like what I'm doing. So this is a 98 4Runner 3.4 5-speed, which is a bit more easier. It's gonna be very similar if you're doing it automatic, but the 5-speed is just a little bit more easier. Now, there's two methods. You can take the engine out by itself, or you can take the engine along with the tranny. In this method, I'm gonna be taking the engine along with the tranny just to make it more easier. We don't need the tranny for the 3.4 swap, but we can always sell that tranny because it's still desirable and has some value. I've done some things off camera already, so I'm gonna explain to you guys what I did, and most of those stuff are under the vehicle. So I try to do all the stuff under the vehicles before I start doing everything on top. So what I've done on the bottom is I went ahead and removed the rear drawline to the T-case. You can remove it or you can just cut it. In this method, I went ahead and cut the drawline as close as I can to the double cardan. I went ahead and removed the front drive shaft at the T-case, and then I just left it in there. I haven't removed it at the differential side yet, but you don't need to. So rear front driveline removed, went ahead and cut the catalytic converter out, went ahead and removed the downpipe. You want to try to unbolt the downpipe from the crossover, and then also cut your O2 sensor harness. And then while we were also down there, I went ahead and PB blasted the engine bolts, the engine mounts, the main engine mounts. We went ahead and PB blasted. We'll go ahead and remove those later on when we have a lot of the stuff removed on top. And then if you're a manual, you also want to go ahead and cut the rubber hose that go to the master slave cylinder, or you can remove the master slave cylinder off the tranny. But again, we don't need it anymore, so we can just cut that rubber hose off because that is connected to the tranny, to the body of the truck, so you have to do that. So that's what I've done on the bottom already. Now I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what I do on the engine bay, how I do it. And again, you can follow my method or you can do whichever way you want. Everything that I do up here, it's not gonna be in that particular order, but you can just kind of see what you want to get to first and then start doing it right away. So let's get right into it. Come along, enjoy this video. One thing I'm gonna do real quick, which I'm not gonna show you guys because you guys should know how to do this, but I'm gonna go ahead and remove that front skid plate so that I can access the radiator and drain the radiator fluid. So I'm gonna drain all the coolant while I do the stuff on the top of it, so make sure you guys do that right away. If you want to drain the oil, this is a good time to do it, or if you want to wait until you get the engine out and then you can drain the oil, it's up to you. Same thing with the tranny. If you want to drain the tranny, you can do it. It's up to you, depending on what you want to do with those things later. For me, I'm gonna drain the coolant for sure because the coolant has to go. And then for the oil, we're gonna go ahead and leave the oil inside the engine because we don't need to take that engine apart yet or anything like that. So it's up to you. So keep those into mind. I hope you guys can see me well. I put my camera on top of the roof here, so hopefully it's good. So we're gonna start digging right into this engine bay. As you guys can see, I went ahead and removed the battery already. Go ahead and do that. The coolant is draining right now. I also went ahead and removed the cruise control. You guys didn't see the cruise control right here, but I went ahead and removed that right away. For the wire that plugs into the cruise control, you can just cut it because you don't need any of that stuff. So now let's go right into it. What I like to do first is I like to remove this intake right here and get this out of the way. Watching me do it and talk along the way as I do this stuff. I'm not gonna talk about what tools I'm using because you guys should have most of these tools. And I also have a 5-gallon jug next to me where I'll be throwing all my nuts and bolts and trash. You can keep them or you can throw them away. For me, I don't need them because I have so much miscellaneous hardware already. That's the air box right there. Go ahead and unplug this MAF. There's a hose right here that you can unplug, along with the hose right here that you can unplug. You can unplug this right here as well. And then have your 10 and 12 mil nice and handy because you're gonna be using those two a lot. And I highly recommend you guys have an impact driver. It makes this thing so much more faster. I need to get my extension. I don't have my extension. If you're doing this for the first time, it might take you about 6-8 hours. But if you've done this many a time, it might not take you that long. You can take the air box and the intake box as one whole unit and keep it like this. You want to keep that for your swap. You have your 10 mil right here, that 2 10 mil for your igniter. I like to keep the igniter plug in. You don't have to take this out. And then everything else over here, you don't need to anymore. There's 2 bolts that hold the ECU wire. You go ahead and unbolt those, and then we'll go unplug the ECU here shortly. And then this coolant hose right here, you can just cut it. You don't need this anymore. Or you can take it off. You can, if you want to, you can take it off real quick. I do like to keep these constant tension clamp. They are nice to have. But this hose here, we're gonna trash it. We don't need this stuff. You always want to go new when you get new stuff. So this will be trash, but I'm gonna keep the constant tension clamps. You can go ahead and take off the throttle cable right here. This comes out. You don't need a throttle cable anymore on the 3/4, so go ahead and take this out. And then you want to get a 12 mil. I don't have my 12 mil. I'll get that in a bit here shortly. For all your heater hoses in the back, go ahead and cut them apart. You don't need them. You don't need them anymore. So you don't need to save any of that stuff. Cut as much as you can and throw them away so you can make room. These are really nice to have. Once we take out the engine out, we'll go ahead and remove all this heater that's still connected to the engine. So all that's off right now. Go ahead and cut as much as you can so you can make room. So all that's trash. There's a brake booster hose right here. Or not brake booster, there's a brake booster along with the evap air hose. Remove all of this stuff. We'll go ahead and remove the evap box next. That's one thing that I like to get out of there so I can have more room over here. So this is the evap hose right here, and then the brake boosters right here. The diagnostic port, I like to remove this and just fold it down so it's not on the side over here. There's this little clip right here. You don't really need this clip anymore when you do the 3/4 swap, so I just throw this into the bin. The evap hose, you can just cut it because you don't need that anymore, so I just cut it like that. Keep that out of there. This is the evap line, and that's the throttle cable. We'll go ahead and get the throttle cable out here in a bit. And then all these air hose right here, all these vacuum lines, you can just cut them apart. You don't need them. So let me go ahead and start removing. There's the fuel line. You don't want to cut the fuel line on the 3/4 because you're going to be using the 3/4 fuel line. So I like to do is I like to undo it from the hard line. There's right below the main fuel line, there's the fuel return line, and you can just cut that, cut the rubber hose. I usually like to cut the fuel line last so that my whole garage don't smell like fuel yet. Go ahead and remove the throttle cable. You don't need the throttle cable anymore, so make sure you put this away. Cut it apart, trash it, or something. Let's go ahead and remove the evap box. There's a few electrical plugs that plug into the evap box, and you want to go ahead and undo those plugs. There's one right here. Sometimes they can be kind of stubborn. Frustration. There's 3 plugs. 1, 2, 3. Be very careful. You don't want to break the evap box, so take your time doing it. There it goes. That's 2. Everything that's on the evap you want to keep. You don't want to destroy it. Oh, and I also didn't tell you guys, remove your hood so you can go monkey style like me. So this is the 3rd one right here. These wires that go to the evap, they're connected to your main harness, so you don't want to destroy that. Be very careful, guys. There's a zip tie right here. Cut that zip tie off. And then this right here stays as one piece. And then undo all the harness over here on the wall that connects it. So this is as one piece. Don't destroy that. And this is also part of the evap right here, so don't lose that as well. I'm actually gonna plug this back in so I don't lose it. Or I can just plug it back over here, but you want to keep the evap box all together. And then go ahead and remove the evap box. There's 3 bolts, 1 down here and then 1 on the firewall. There are a few couple hoses down here that you want to cut off too. This one right here is just a breather hose. You can just cut this one out. Remove it like that. There's one over here. This one here is for the few VAP line. You can just cut it because you'll put a new one later. So this is what your evap should look like. If you have a good evap box that still has your mount bracket, make sure you take very good care of it, because most of the time when you get a wrecked vehicle, these mount right here are always broken. I think the coolant is done draining right now, so once the coolant is done draining, we can start removing this radiator. This radiator is pretty much trash, so we're not going to use it. I'm also going to go ahead and remove the fuse box. You don't need a fuse box, but you can remove it out of the way to make more room. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut everything that's connected to it. All the vacuum lines that's down here for the VSV and the ADD system, just go ahead and cut all of it out. Whew, running out of breath talking to you guys. I like to keep all my tools in a little tote right here. Bunch of wires that you don't need, just cut them so you can make more room. The fuel return line, you can just cut it. Keep in mind a little bit of gas is gonna come out, so be cautious of that. There it goes. And then the main fuel line, we'll go ahead and disconnect that later. Just make sure you don't do anything crazy around here. And then all the vacuum lines, you can just cut it. You don't need any of these vacuum lines over here. They're all junk. The power wire, I can just cut this because we don't need this power wire. Cut that. Cut that. There's an electrical plug right here. You don't need that, so just cut it. All of this we don't need. This right here, this main hot wire is connected to the engine, so I like to just put it on the side. And this positive, this negative, that stays on the side too. And all of this right here gets cut off. You don't need any of this. You don't have to remove the fuse box, but I'm just gonna go ahead and remove it so it's out of the way, just so you guys can get a better illustration. And then I like to also pull all the fuses and relay and keep them for spare. This fuse box has a big old wire here, and the only way to remove it is to really just cut it. So like I said, you don't have to do it unless you want it, but for this purpose, I'm just gonna, actually I might just leave it on the side here and I'll pull all the fuses later. I don't need them right now. So we are pretty much done on the driver's side. The only thing we need to do left is just do the fuel line. I'm gonna spray the fuel line here with some PB Blaster, and we'll come back to that in a bit here shortly. while I do everything else. That's the fuel return line, 1/4-inch fuel line. If you're doing a 3.0 on the fuel line for the 3.0, you can just cut the rubber line because on the 3.0 you don't use it, but on the 3.4 you want to keep the fuel line good. Nails, make sure you throw them away. Don't just throw around your garage or else you're gonna run into it. So that's all we have right there. So we have everything on the driver's side done. We have all the heater hose cut off, which is good. Now we just need to work on the front end. I'll put that back in there. We don't care for the radiator or the fan shroud, so if those get destroyed, it's not a big deal. The radiator is going to the trash. This is a bad radiator anyways. If I get a good radiator, when I'm parting these rigs out, I'll take care of them and then I'll sell them as used, because there are guys that look for 3.4 radiator that are on a tight budget or a tight bill. And also, if you have AC, I like to unbolt the AC lines at the front of these, behind the grill, so that the AC can be released. So let's go ahead and remove this fan shroud. What I like to do is remove the fan shroud, and then we'll go ahead and remove the fan pulley there. So you need your 12 mil. All right, I'm not gonna worry about the fan shroud. The fan bracket or the fan clutch, there's 12 nuts, 4 12mm nuts. So you want to undo that and then go from there. These nuts that go on the fan for the fan clutch, I like to keep them because they are nice to have. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut these belts because I don't need them anyways. Trash. When you do a 3/4 swap, you don't need a 3.4 fan, but you do want to keep the 3.4 fan clutch because you'll be using the 3.4 fan clutch with a 3.0 fan. They all bolt to each other, but the 3.0 fan is a bit smaller, which is what you want. Wiggle it back and forth. So there's the fan clutch and the fan. You definitely want to keep those just for the heck of it. And then I like to take these nuts and put these nuts back on, just so that I don't lose them. And I think I lost one of them already. Where did the other one go? But yeah, put these nuts back on so the pulleys here don't fall off of the water pump or the fan bracket pulley. Go ahead and remove the fan shroud. It's still held by one bolt down there, but I'm just gonna yank it out. This is trash. And now you want to remove the radiator, which is at the front over here. The bolts go through the front, not the back, like the 3.0. $12 mil. You also have the bottom radiator hose, so go ahead and cut that off too. I haven't done that yet. And I'm just gonna go ahead and cut that radiator hose because we don't need it. Be careful, a little bit of radiator coolant will be coming out. So you can go ahead and remove the radiator now and put that aside or trash it so you have room. Just gonna go ahead and throw this away real quick. All right, now that we got the radiator out of the way, there's a few things that we have to disconnect on the passenger side. Those are the AC line and the power steering line. Those are the two main things. And then after that, we just need to unbolt this engine, and then we can literally just pull it out along with the ECU, go unplug the ECU. So that's really all we have left. You don't need to touch anything else. The power steering, you have a main hard line. I like to just cut that main hard line because we don't need that main hard line anymore. And then you have the return line, which is a rubber hose, and I like to cut that as well. Keep in mind to put something below it because power steering will be leaking. So I'm just gonna wait till this coolant's done draining, and then I'm gonna move my pan over here to the power steering. But in the meanwhile, let's go ahead and remove the AC line. You have two AC line that's plugged into the AC compressor. We don't need the AC line, so we can cut it or you can just unbolt it. They're pretty hard, so I'm just gonna go ahead and unbolt them from the AC compressor. And again, if you haven't released the freon yet, be careful when you unbolt them. It's gonna go psss. They're 10 mil. Make sure you have your 10 mil. If you want to keep the AC on your 3.4 truck, you want to keep your AC. You want to keep the 3.4 AC compressor. So make sure you hold on to the hardware if you need them. But in this case, I don't need it. So there's 2 lines for the AC, like I said. Just go ahead and remove them once you unbolt it. One of the AC line is from the firewall, and the other one is from the compressor to the AC condenser over here on the front. And you want to push these line out of the way. I also forgot there's a ground wire at the back of here. The ground wire from the head to the firewall, 10 millimeters. So go ahead and remove that real quick. This is the other AC line that goes from compressor to the condenser. You don't need this for the swap, but all that will be gone to the trash. And once you remove those AC lines, you also have more access to the engine mounts so that you can remove the 2 14 mils over here. I'm gonna go ahead and move into the ECU. I'm not going to show you guys how to remove the ECU because it's pretty simple. You just have to remove the glove box and then you'll see the ECU, so you guys should know how to do it. But once you get in there, just go ahead and unplug the ECU, and then you can pull this the main engine harness out of here. I want to show you guys very quick before, if you guys have never removed your ECU, remove the glove box, remove this top panel. You can cut all this this airbag stuff. Don't cut this wire. These 2 plugs are from the main engine harness, so unplug them. And then you want to cut this pigtail right here, this black piece. You want to cut this and keep the female end. So you want to keep this whole unit, but cut only this piece. Cut as much as you can right here, but don't cut this wire here. This wire over here, don't cut it. That's part of the main engine harness. And then you have your ECU right here. You have 3 plugs that are from the main engine harness. Don't cut those. And then you have 1 that plugs into the ECU that it's coming off from the dashboard. That's the one you need to cut. So just be very cautious if you're doing this your first time, all right? So I'll show you guys what it looks like once I have it all popped out. And then the ECU is held by these Phillips head right there. And I'll take it out, and once we get it out, I'll show you guys everything. So this one here, see how this is the last one? This is not on the engine harness. This is on the dashboard harness. So once you get the ECU out, cut as much back as you can. But the rest of these guys, do not cut them because you'll ruin your engine harness. Okay, this is what you should have once you have the ECU removed. That sticker is known to fade away, so as soon as you remove it, make sure it's nice and clean, but don't wipe it off. And I like to put tape over it to protect it because this one was almost fading away. I like to write the year, the model, 4-wheel drive, manual, and then the part number, the 89661. So you can see here, this ECU plug, this is off the dashboard. You want to go ahead and cut that one off, and then the other 3 are from the main engine harness. Don't mess with those. And then you also have this one here, which are the 2 that I told you guys about. Unplug them, and then you want to cut this piece out. So this piece is from the dash, and this wire here is from the dash. So these 2 wires, along with the OBD2 port, which is on the driver right knee panel, right under the radio, you also want to cut that. So these are the only 3 wires that you need from the inside that needs to be cut. And once you have these, you're good for your donor swap. And this right here, you can just put it around here. And then once we remove the engine, just be careful not to damage those plugs. And then this right here, we'll go ahead and tape them back together. I like to keep them taped up or zip tied together so that they won't get lost. When you're doing a 3/4 swap, you also don't need these brackets, so you can go ahead and remove these brackets and then put those screws back on, or you can just leave it the way it is, up to you. So there it is right there. The OBD2 scanner plug is right below this kick panel. You have to just cut it like maybe 4 or 5 inches of pigtail. Not gonna show you guys that. While you're in here, if you're doing my method where I'm gonna remove the transmission with it, go ahead and remove the shifter and also the 4-wheel drive shifter. So this one is a push style. You just push it, twist it around, and this one has a little C-clip. So go ahead and remove those and then put them in a Ziploc bag so that you can seal these with the transmission. So we're pretty much done on the inside besides the OBD2 plug, which I'll get later. That's not super important right now. So let's go ahead and move back to the engine. We're back in the engine bay. We're gonna go ahead and start doing the power steering. Like I said, there's the main hard line, which is metal, right at the big bolt. You can just cut it with a grinder, or you can unbolt it. It's up to you. We don't need that hard line anymore. And we also don't need the banjo bolt because we're going to be using the 3.0 banjo bolt when we do our swap. So for me, I like to just take my grinder and just cut return line, which is just a rubber hose. You can take that off or just cut it. In this case, I'm just going to cut it. And again, make sure you have something below because it's going to drop. There it goes. A little bit that spilled, but no big deal. If you want all the fluid to come out, you can kind of spin the power steering pump. That kind of helps push it out too. We got the big line. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut that power steering line. So we are now done with the power steering. The only thing we have left are the engine mounts, which is the 2 nuts on each end, and also the fuel line. Once we get those out, we can literally just start pulling the engine out. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing the engine mount. I'm not gonna show you guys how I do it, but you have enough room on the passenger side. The driver's side, is a bit tricky, but you can get through the fender wheels and get it out. So you just have to use your 14 mil ratchets and fight around it. And that's pretty much it right here. Once I unbolt those, I'll start to go ahead and cut this right here so that we can get this out of the way. We might have to also remove the front bumper, so I'm not gonna show you guys how to do that, because if you guys got this far in, you guys should know how to do it. Now again, if you're just removing the engine, then you want to unbolt the bell housing bolt, which is kind of a pain in the butt. But in this case, we're gonna move the engine, tranny all as one, and we're gonna cut this. If you remove the engine and tranny without cutting this piece, you're gonna have a lot of tight rooms to work with. It is possible, but it's very tight. But again, in this case, we don't really care about this truck anymore, so we're just gonna chop all this stuff and make it easier on ourselves. I got the engine mounts removed. The hardest one is the farther driver's side, farthest one. It's very tricky to get to, but after a while you get to it. I also ended up removing the thermostat pipe, and I removed the thermostat so that all the coolant will come out because they keep on dripping. So just go ahead and take that out so all the coolant can come out. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this piece right here off. I'm just gonna cut this piece, and I'm probably not gonna go all the way down to the bottom. So I'm just gonna cut this piece off so that we can pull the motor out more easier. The motor is pretty much ready to go though. All this stuff is cut. So we have some electrical wire right here. You can cut these out because you don't need them. This should be enough room right here. I don't want to remove the bumper because it's just more work, but I just need to get this piece out, which is the AC condenser. So this right here should be plenty of room, so when I lift it out, instead of coming straight up like this, it has plenty of room to come out right here. I shouldn't have to remove my front bumper, so this is good. This right here can be chopped off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and clean up, and after that, let me get my engine hoist and we'll start yanking this motor out, motor and tranny. I have the engine hooked up. I have a hook on this side that hooks onto the engine mount, and then on the other side there's a D-ring that goes onto the engine hook right on top of the intake manifold. I have it slightly lifted up, maybe ½ inch, to release some pressure, and then I still have 2 bolts on the cross member. I'm gonna go push those out, remove the cross member, and then pull this out as one whole unit. So just want to be very careful when you do it. Hopefully I have enough headroom. Usually I take the vehicle out of my garage and then I do it outside, but I think I should have enough room to slide it out. If not, we'll just go ahead and roll the vehicle out. So let me go remove those 2 cross member bolts, and then we'll start yanking this out. I'm gonna have to remove that front dry line from the front diff. We need a little bit more room. I got the front dry line removed. Let's give this a round 2. Should come out this time. What a difference, guys. What a difference. Again, you want to pump, pull, lift, pull, lift, pull. There we go, it's out. I just need to slide it forward. Just make sure you watch out for your roof here. Woo! Oh, pretty amazing, guys. I think I did that within less than 3 hours. So definitely doable once you're, it's pretty fast once you're good at it. I'm gonna try to lift this side and try to push it this way. Everything you guys see here, you guys need to do it with caution. Oh, I'm hitting my garage door, so I need to drop it down. Definitely helps if you remove the front bumper. Woo! Yeah, if we would have went and removed the front bumper, it would have just slid out, but right now it's catching on the T-case. Not a big deal, we'll lift it out. There it goes. Oh. You guys can see right here, that's where I cut the dry line, right at the double cardan. You want to keep the double cardan, you can use it for a custom dry shaft. But that's pretty much it. You can go ahead and remove the harness, unplug all the harness from the tranny in, and then that goes with the main engine harness. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'm gonna go ahead and separate the bell housing or the transmission from the engine. And that's a wrap for this video. I hope you guys enjoy. That's pretty much all you need. You don't need anything else from this engine bay for your 3/4 swap, but if you guys want to sell these parts, it'll help you guys fund your future project. I'm exhausted, so I'm gonna finish doing this, separating it. I'm gonna call it a night, clean up my tools, clean up the garage. Super nasty right here, so it's all mixed with oil and power steering coolant. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys got any question, Leave it in the comment section below. Follow the Instagram. I'll see you guys next year. I'll see you guys on next video. Bye bye. $1998, 281,165, 5-speed manual. Runs good. No ticks, no knocks, no overheating, no smoking. Been running for the last 5 minutes. No smoke from the exhaust. Been running for the last 5 minutes or so. $1998, 3.4, great rig, great donor for a swap. If you guys are looking for one, let me know. It's gonna get pulled here soon.